And welcome to this Friday edition of America Talks Live. I'm your host, Miranda Kahn. Happening right now, the White House press briefing just about an hour after Press Secretary Sean Spicer resigned. We're going to talk more about that coming up with our political panel. Plus, the probe into Russian election meddling heats up. President Trump is reportedly looking into ways to stall the special counsel's investigation. Meanwhile, the heat appears to be too much for some members of Trump's team. His personal lawyer and his legal team spokesperson are both out. Could Chief Strategist Steve Bannon be next? All right, we're going to talk more about that. But as we mentioned less than an hour ago, the president's White House press secretary resigned. Cameras appear to be up right now. We don't know yet whether he is going to talk on camera. Again, this happened less than an hour ago. According to multiple reports, this was his decision, not something that the president asked him to do. This announcement comes shortly after Anthony Scaramucci accepted the job as White House Communications Director. Now, Scaramucci worked previously as a host on Fox Business. He's also the founder of the hedge fund investment firm Skybridge Capital and the Salt Hedge Fund Conference. New York Times is reporting that Sean Spicer actually resigned because he disagreed with the president deciding that Scaramucci was going to be the communications director. That information has not been verified, but again, that is what the New York Times is reporting right now. I'm being told we do have Jack Berkman, correct? Okay, we have Jack Berkman. We're pleased to have him. He is the host of Behind the Curtain, which you can see right here on Newsmax TV at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Saturdays. Jack is also a conservative strategist and the president of Berkman Associates. Jack, good to see you. So obviously you have made it very clear, I think multiple times on this show and on this network, that you are not a huge fan of Sean Spicer, at least as the press secretary. So you're probably not surprised to hear this latest announcement. And as I mentioned, the New York Times is saying that this becomes, that this is apparently because of Scaramucci being awarded the communications director position and that he was unhappy with that. Again, we haven't verified that. But why do you think Spicer resigned?
Well, it could be a harbinger of bigger things, a bigger shakeup. I mean, Trump should have gotten rid of Spicer long ago. Sean's a good guy. He's a very good guy. He's a smart guy. He's politically savvy. But White House press secretary, I mean, take a look at that guy walk into a room and listen to him speak at a press conference for 30 seconds, and you know that that's not a White House press secretary. Now they're left with Mike Huckabee's daughter. That's a decent resource, but they need a lot more talent than that. What they need is a guy like Tony Snow, God rest his soul. They need someone like that. They need a Washington person with a couple of decades of experience in journalism and television that can go in there and really set the ship straight. Scaramucci, I don't know much about him. I doubt he will do much of the on-air. I think Trump is bringing in loyalists to kind of close ranks. That's what it appears.
Yeah. Well, it appears to be an issue. I mean, we know this is not the first time. You know, conservatives have also criticized the president when it comes to his social media use, but nonetheless, he continues to do it. It seems like it's happened more than once where whether it was Sean Spicer or somebody else speaking on behalf of the president, the president comes out and then says something totally different. But go ahead, John.
You want me to tell you the truth, Miranda? I was thinking about whether I should say this, but you want me to tell you the truth? Here's the truth. Here's Trump's central problem. I'll just come right out and tell you. Don Rumsfeld has a book where he calls Rumsfeld's rules. He says A's hire A's, B's hire C's, C's hire D's. Now, Donald Trump has many great strengths, but one of his weaknesses is he wants all the attention in the room focused on him. He doesn't want anybody with any other star capacity, star power, media capacity, independent television capacity around him. That's how you wind up with a guy like Sean Spicer, right? Because Sean Spicer, nobody would ever mistake him for a star. So a guy like Trump is very comfortable like that, you see. Trump knows he needs a guy like Tony Snow, but he doesn't want to do that because he's afraid to create any other stars. This right now is the central problem, I would argue, with Trump's whole presidency. He's got to transcend that He's got to transcend that. Now, the president has many great strengths. He ran a brilliant campaign. I support him. I love much of what he's doing. I think he's being horribly, unfairly victimized by the independent counsel and all the rest. But Trump has got to transcend his interpersonal demons on this issue if he's going to go on and really be a president.
Well, speaking of the independent counsel, let's talk about some of the changes. Actually, we'll talk about in just a second some of the changes with the president's legal team. But first, let's talk Russia. Trump is reportedly looking into ways to limit Robert Mueller's investigation into Russia. That's according to the Washington Post. It reports that Trump's lawyers are scrutinizing the special counsel's conflicts of interest. Now, one of Trump's lawyers, Jay Sekulow, says that Mueller must stay within his scope of the investigation. And he said reports from Bloomberg that we mentioned the other day that Mueller planned to look into some of the president's dealings, and that includes a 2008 real estate deal in which a Russian paid Trump millions for a Palm Beach mansion. Now, Sekulow says that 9-year-old deal is far outside the scope of a legitimate investigation. And on Wednesday, President Trump went after Mueller during that New York Times interview, saying that he would consider it a violation if Mueller looked into his family's finances not related to Russia. Here's what he said.
I don't make money from Russia. In fact, I put out a letter saying that I don't make from one of the most highly respected law firms and accounting firms. I don't have buildings in Russia. They said I own buildings in Russia. I don't. They said I made money from Russia. No, it's not my thing. I don't do that.
All right. Trump declined, though, to discuss whether or not he would actually fire Mueller if he felt like he was investigating areas not related to the Russia investigation. Also joining us on the conversation from California, we have with us former federal prosecutor and founder of Freedom Watch, Larry Klayman. Welcome to America Talks Live. Good to see you, Larry. So we've been talking about Robert Mueller. I'm not sure how much of that you heard. And, you know, the president's saying you better not go after my finances. And what Sekulow said, this is outside the scope. I know this was a concern from many Republicans when you hire or appoint a special counsel, is that the investigation is going to take too long and it's going to be too broad. So I'm going to ask you, what does a 9-year-old real estate deal, if this is true, have to do with Russian meddling in last year's election? And do you think that's outside the scope of a reasonable investigation?
Yeah, the key word you just used is reasonable, because when the Deputy Attorney General Ron Rosenstein, authorized Mueller's investigation, he added at the end, and related matters. That's like putting in the sink, the kitchen sink. And the problem here is, Miranda, as you pointed out, I think you're intimating that, is that these investigations go in every direction. And Mueller's going to have to justify at the end of the day spending tens of millions of dollars on investigating. Plus, in and around him, he's got all these Clinton loyalists like Janice Rhee. I even had her on a case that I brought against Clinton racketeering about 2 years ago in Palm Beach, not far from where you are. I got a Clinton judge and he dismissed it. It went up on appeal. So the reality here is that Mueller is going to go far afield. He is going to try to find something. He has to justify his expense. He's got these Clinton loyalists around him. And frankly, I think the president really needs to just fire him at this point, because this was a mistake.
Oh, depends on which report you read. Now, you may remember Kasowitz was widely criticized for a series of profane and threatening emails that he sent to a stranger last week. Now, according to Business Insider, the man sent Kasowitz an email telling him to resign, which sparked this angry, profanity-laced exchange. The man was so disturbed by Kasowitz's threats that he forwarded the emails to the FBI. All right. And then President Trump's legal defense team spokesperson, Mark Corallo, has also resigned. Just 2 months after he took the job, Politico reports that Corallo was growing frustrated with the operations and with all the infighting between members of Trump's legal team. Now, Corallo has publicly praised special counsel leader Robert Mueller in the past. He's also been very critical of the president in past tweets. But he says Robert Mueller doesn't know if there's a finer human being out there. So, Larry, I have to start with you and in your legal mind. What's your reaction to this whole legal team reshuffling, shakeup, if you will?
Well, I think that the president got the wrong people, and it's not bad that there's going to be a shakeup here. The president loves Fox News. Sometimes he hires his lawyers off of Fox News. But he needs to get somebody outside of Washington, D.C. There's too much incestuous relationships there. And the people that he's hired, and in fact, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and others are Clinton loyalists. I mean, Jamie Gorelick, for instance, is another one. And it's very murky. He needs someone like my friend Craig Gillen in Atlanta, who actually ran the Iran-Contra investigation for Lawrence Walsh, somebody who's insulated from the politics of Washington, someone who really understands what independent counsels and special counsels are all about. Although I like Jake Sacco a lot. He's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. And I think he's doing a decent job. He's not a criminal defense lawyer. So what you need here is somebody who truly is a criminal defense lawyer, because this is where this case is going. And I would recommend my law school friend, Craig Gillen, give him a little pitch here on that.
There you go. So, Trump, if you're listening, if you're not watching Fox News, there's your advice from Larry Klayman right there. All right, guys, stand by, because we have so much more to talk about right after the break. It's just another slow day. We're going to be talking more about other possible staff shakeups at the White House. Steve Bannon, could he be the next person out? And possibly else, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, says that, he plans to stay on the job, despite the president telling the New York Times that he wouldn't have hired him had he known that he would recuse himself from the Russia probe. So we're asking you, do you think Attorney General Jeff Sessions should resign? Send us your thoughts now at Newsmax Now at NewsmaxTV.com or tweet us at Newsmax Now. We'll air some of your comments later in the show. Welcome back to America Talks Live. We've been talking about President Trump's reshuffling his legal team and members of his administration. Sources tell Newsmax that this is only the beginning and that more firings will be coming, most likely during the congressional recess in August. Could Trump's chief strategist, though, Steve Bannon, be one of those people? Well, here to talk about it is our political panel. Joining us from California, we have with us again Larry Klayman, and from Newsmax New York, we have Jack Berkman. Gentlemen, thank you for sticking around.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Miranda.
All right, let's talk about Steve Bannon. Politico reports that Bannon is no longer attending key White House meetings. The outlet also claims that President Trump is not happy with his chief strategist after a new book called The Devil's Bargain credited Bannon for Trump's election victory. And nationally syndicated radio host Michael Savage, who was an early supporter of Trump, apparently is also not pleased. In an article on his website, he says it's a lie and that Bannon did not make Trump's presidency. Savage says that Trump was already crafting his America First policy as early as 6 years ago, while Bannon was working on documentaries in Hollywood. So, Jack, will Bannon be the next in line to lead the Trump administration, and should he?
I doubt it. I think it's more likely to see a change with Priebus. What I'm hearing is there's a lobbyist by the name of David Urban, who's a prominent lobbyist in Washington who's close to Trump and who's a longtime friend of Trump, who will replace Priebus. That's what I'm hearing on the inside. If you get rid of Bannon, there's pretty much nothing left in the White House. Then you have to really start from scratch. I do think Bannon is the architect of the campaign. Here's the problem. This goes back to something we were talking about with Spicer, Miranda, and here I think is Trump's central problem. Bannon gets all this attention. He's on the cover of Time, right? Trump can't take that. That's what drives him crazy. Trump has to get over this addiction that he can be the only person in the room with media attention. He has to transcend this. In order to rise to the level of being a good or a great president, he's got to get over this. I see that as that's the president's main foible, and we need some progress there.
Larry, your reaction?
Well, Miranda and Jack, the problem here is that Bannon's getting this attention, not necessarily because he wants that attention, but he's been called a racist. He's been called an anti-Semite. I mean, he's none of those things. It's ridiculous. But he gets the attention because they've made him the Darth Vader of the administration. And obviously, he's got to protect his flanks, and he's got to tell the story. And he had a big role to play in getting the president elected. And I think maybe Bannon is being undercut by the Roger Stones and others of this world who want to take credit for this election. It's really a group thing. And Jack, I don't disagree with what Jack's saying, but we don't know whether Trump, in fact, is jealous of the attention Bannon's getting. And I do think Jack's absolutely correct. If we leave the White House to Reince Priebus, we can pretty much forget it. I mean, this is an establishment Republican. He's not a conservative. He's not even a libertarian, and he doesn't really know the way Washington works. He's from Wisconsin. He knows how to fundraise for the RNC as the former chairman, and that's the problem. We need a stronger chief of staff that can keep control of what's going on, that's tough, that knows how to deal with Congress. Priebus does not. And that, I think, is the biggest problem. He's been the problem, and I think Priebus should go.
Well, there you heard it. A rumor that Priebus may be out, and then you had 2 endorsements right here on America Talks Live for his departure. Gentlemen, stick around. We have more to discuss, including some recent polls that show President Trump's approval rating is tanking. Could that be leading to even more shakeups in the White House? Plus, with the recent staff shakeups, could the Attorney General be next? You heard the gentleman say that they thought Reince Priebus should be let go. Should Attorney General Jeff Sessions be included in that? We're asking you, after you heard the president tell the New York Times the other day that he would never have hired him if he knew that he was going to recuse himself from the Russia probe. But Sessions told the media yesterday he has no intentions of stepping down. What do you think? Send us your thoughts now at Newsmax Now at NewsmaxTV.com or tweet us at Newsmax Now. We'll air some of your comments a little bit later in the show. We'll also have your very latest headlines. Stick around. Welcome back to America Talks Live. I'm your host, Miranda Kahn. All right, let's get you caught up on some of the other stories that are making headlines on this Friday. The U.S. will reportedly ban Americans from traveling to North Korea. This comes after Otto Warmbier died a few days after he was released from the communist country. The 22-year-old student was in a coma for more than a year after being sentenced to 15 years of hard labor for allegedly stealing a propaganda poster. At least 3 Palestinians died during clashes with Israeli troops at Temple Mount. The protest broke out. Metal detectors were installed at the temple's entry point. This comes after there was a terror attack at the site last week, where 2 Israeli officers died. John McCain's doctors say the senator's next options for treatment might include a combination of chemotherapy and radiation. The senator was diagnosed with brain cancer after doctors removed a blood clot above his left eye over the weekend. And O.J. Simpson will be a free man in October. A board granted Simpson parole after serving 9 of his 33-year sentence. A court convicted Simpson of multiple charges connected to an altercation with sports memorabilia dealers in Las Vegas. And co-host of MSNBC's Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski, lands a new book deal. Weinstein Books told the AP that Brzezinski will have 3 books. The first will be an expanded version of her 2011 bestseller, Knowing Your Value, Women, Money, and Getting What You're Worth. All right, now that you're all up to date, let's bring our political panel back in. Joining us once again from California, we have the founder of Freedom Watch, Larry Klayman. Larry's also a former federal prosecutor. And joining him, we have from Newsmax New York, Jack Berkman. Jack is the host of Behind the Curtain, which you can catch right here on Newsmax TV, 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Saturdays. Jack is also a conservative strategist and the president of Berkman Associates. Thank you, gentlemen, for sticking around.
You're welcome.
Pleasure is mine.
All right, Larry, I have to get your reaction to O.J. Simpson getting parole. You were here on this show and you said, you thought he should get it. So I assume you're not too surprised by it, but what happens next?
Well, legally, I thought he should get it, but in my heart, I wish he was still in prison. I mean, the guy is a danger to society. He's going to do it again. Something's going to happen. Maybe he won't kill somebody, but he'll assault somebody. I agreed with Gloria Allred at the time that he just simply is not fit to be in this civilized world. But he's out there, and he's going to do something. And apparently he was doing some weird stuff in his cell before he went to the probation hearing. So it's scary that he's out there, and it's regrettable.
Okay, I have to ask you because I have no idea what you're talking about. Weird stuff. You know something we don't know you want to share?
We're a family network, okay. But shall we say he was playing with himself? And
oh,
he was doing
okay. All right, we'll leave it there. It's a family show. Sorry I asked. All right, moving on. All day we've been talking about, knew I shouldn't have asked. All day we've been talking about White House legal teams and staff shakeups, and some of which are related to the expanded Russia investigation on Sean Spicer, as we announced earlier, resigned as press secretary. This was about an hour ago or so. These staff shakeups maybe in part to President Trump's low approval ratings. According to Gallup, which has tracked presidential approval ratings for 40 years, Trump's rating has dropped to a near record low of 36%. That's just 1 point above his lowest approval rating, which was at the end of March. And it is a 6-point loss from where he was about a month ago. And on June 22nd, Trump's approval was sitting at around 42%. Now, the latest poll from Gallup confirms an ABC poll taken from earlier this week. Now, according to that ABC News Washington Post poll, only 36% of voters support the president compared to nearly 60% who don't. You know, maybe I'm just a little leery. Ever since last year, we had all these polls that seemed to be inaccurate. But you know what? I'll go to Jack. Jack, what is your take on these polls? Can they be trusted?
Well, sure, they can be trusted. I think what's happening, Miranda, is you have the entire establishment media has thrown off what little veneer of objectivity is left. And they have now joined Hillary Clinton in this call to resist, resist, resist. And, you know, the Washington Post today versus the Washington Post 40 years ago during Watergate was objective compared to the Washington Post today. Now they've thrown the cloaks off. Now they've just joined the Democratic Party. They've joined the American left, and now they are fighting openly the president. The country is divided in many of the same ways it was divided in the 1850s. So it's very, very hard for Trump to have good numbers in this climate. It's understandable. Now, what Trump has to do, though, is to refocus. He's got to continue to neuter Mueller, as we said, push Mueller to the side, not fire him, but make him obscure, push him to the side.
Can we come up with another word?
Well, oh yes, yes, that's yes, a better word, a better word. They've got they have to push a better word. They have to render him less effective.
There you go. There you go.
Render him less effective. But the most important thing is they've got to move on. They've got to move on with the legislative strategy. Trump has to say, look, we're done with the Donald Jr. thing. That's over with. We're done with the Mueller thing. Now I'm moving ahead with Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. We are going to do health repeal. We will do infrastructure. We will do banking reform. We'll do all these things. I will deliver on my promise. I will not let the Post and the Times distract me anymore. He's got to give a powerful primetime address where he reaffirms his election commitment.
Thank you for changing the verb there. Larry, last word to you on this topic when it comes to polls. How much faith should we put into him?
I was going to say we could spay Mueller if that was something different. But the fact here is I travel a lot, Miranda, and I'm in different cities. Yesterday I was in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I was visiting Klayman Bundy in prison, who, you know, I'm defending in a number of different respects. And I asked cab drivers and Uber drivers what they think. And they tell me they love Trump, and they love him even more that he's being attacked. And I think these polls, people are embarrassed to tell the pollsters, like they were in the days leading up to the election, that they love Trump. And I'm not so sure that it's at 36%. I don't think it is. And I think that the more he is attacked, I think, frankly, the more support he gets. That's just my gut feeling. And it's also my feeling talking to average people in the streets who aren't these elites in Washington, D.C.
Good insight. All right. Before we let you both go, we want to have a little fun because, after all, it is Friday. So we're going to play a game we haven't played for a while. It's called Real or Fake. John Bachman, our vice president, likes to take credit for this, saying that he coined the term fake news before the president did. But here's how it works. I will read the headline of a story, and you get to decide which one is true. Play along if you're watching at home, and which one is fake, or if they're all true or all fake. Sometimes we like to switch it up. All right, everybody got the idea? Let's get started. Our first headline, oh bother. Chinese censors block Winnie the Pooh over a meme comparing him to Xi Jinping. The next headline reads, 12 contact lenses are found in a woman's eye, doctors report. And our final headline, judge to inmates, get sterilized and I'll shave off jail time. Jack, your reactions are priceless. See, it's fun. It's fun. Friday fun.
I will say true, false, true.
True, false, true. Now, my producer knows I'm really bad about that. True, false, true. Okay. Larry.
I think the last one is true. I'm not sure about the other ones, but they are funny. 12 contact lenses in somebody's eye. I guess we've got a little medical malpractice there. And I guess pre-existing conditions on Obamacare might take care of that.
So you think the last one's true? Oh, you guys. Wow. All right. Well, here's the answer. 2 are real and 1 is fake. Doctors didn't find just 12, Larry, contacts in this woman's eye. They found 27. 27. My producer who wears contacts was like shocked. I think we all were. This can't be possible, but no, it's true. According to the New York Times, a 67-year-old lady just shrugged off the pain in her right eye. I don't know how. Doctors found the massive contacts while preparing her for routine cataract surgery. Yes.
Scary.
What'd you say, Larry?
I said it's scary.
That is scary.
I mean,
27 contacts, Jack.
You know, hey, Miranda, I'm blind and I wear neither glasses nor contacts because both are too inconvenient.
Yeah, well, and dangerous, apparently. They can get stuck there and stay there forever. Larry Klayman, Jack Berkman, thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks, Larry. Thank you, guys.
Good to see you.
We
Great
really
weekend.
appreciate it. And again, you can watch Behind the Curtain with Jack Berkman. That airs Saturdays at 10 o'clock Eastern Time right here on Newsmax TV. Good to have you guys.
Thanks. Thanks, Miranda.
Thanks.